Hello, this is Uncle Jim, and let's talk Derringers for a minute. I'm not a big Derringer guy, and these fell into my lap, and they're more of a novelty. However, I was watching Jesse B's video this morning. He's trying to clean and troubleshoot his brother's traditional style FIE Derringer in 22 long rifle. And I'll give you my advice and a little bit of experience on these, especially in the rim fires. And then I want to show you the improvements that High Standard made. This is a 22 Magnum, and how they made Derringers great again. And it's because of the old design and the two firing pin system on the older style Derringers that can cause issues. So his problem was when it alternates, you got two firing pins, and when it alternates from one to the other, he was getting light strikes. Well, that's a common problem. So it's usually the ratcheting system that makes the firing pin go from one position to the other. In this case, this is totally different. We're going to cover that in a minute. So let me put this one away for now. And so, Jesse, I think you're going to have to get into that ratcheting system, because if they get dirty, or the parts wear, or if they're made of cheap parts, eventually they'll have issues, sometimes new right out of the box. FIE is the brand his brother has, and that's not like the best reputation for metallurgy. And so after I replied to his video, I saw that some people recommended a sonic cleaner. That's not always good. It could be very damaging to the finish, and aluminum and titanium parts also. If you have a good sonic cleaner, you can ruin aluminum and titanium. I know this from suppressors. And you can also take the finish off of things. So I wouldn't go there. Clean it by hand like you're doing. But I know you didn't want to get to the ratcheting system, but you can, and that's what I would inspect. Now, I'm sure you're going to be shooting it today after you cleaned it, or the next day, and if you still have the problem, you take the ratcheting system out, because you have like a full gear where this was simplified, and we'll talk about that. Now, you wanted to get the firing pins out and needed a special screwdriver bit. This is what you want. Something like this. A lot of gun manufacturers use different type of screws and bits, so Billy Bob can't get in there and screw things up. A lot of thinner screwdriver blades. You can make your own, and also make this style so you can get around the firing pin and unscrew it. Okay. This one here I pulled out just for this example. This is a Harbor Freight 90-piece set. They have one of these, but you can make your own. And the good gunsmithing bits, which I also have, come with these and different styles and thicknesses, specifically for certain guns. Especially lever actions, you want specific screwdriver bits. Same with the Smith & Wesson. They do that for a reason. All right. Now, you were worried about the two dimples on the breech face. Those are there for a reason, and that was to save the firing pin from getting damaged, and it puts all the pressure on the rim of the rimfire. So those dimples on the breech face are there for a reason. This uses a slit instead, and we'll cover that in a minute. All right, so On Derringers, my experience is they're problem childs when it comes to getting a light strike on one barrel or the other. Whenever it ratchets up and down, because it has two different firing pins, it has to move up and down. So I would take that out if you still have problems. Maybe once it's clean, you might be okay. Rimfires are the most problematic on Derringers. But if you still have the problem, take the gear ratchet out. And you can do that without removing the firing pin. Those are just free floating. I think they might have a spring in there. And as long as those are moving good, just blast those out, leave them alone. Otherwise, take them out with a special bit. All right. So the problem with the old design is it has to fight that ratcheting system. And a lot of times the bottom barrel gets the light strike. And it's just a theory. I don't have a traditional one. But the hammer has more force at the top than it does down here, okay? It's kind of like a revolver. If you have end shake, or if you have a light hammer spring, it will fire when the hammer's cocked, but if you shoot it in double action, that's where it's going to show light strikes when you have a problem. Okay, just a theory. That's why the bottom usually goes out. Now, we've had expensive Bond arms. We used to be a Bond arms dealer. Those things are a huge brick, and they're better made than a lot of the other Saturday night special $100 Derringers. And they had the problem. We sent new ones back, or people brought in the ones they used and had the same problem. So it carries on to any brand, really. And it's the ratcheting system. It's kind of like a gear with the spring that holds it and ratchets it. So now let's talk about this one here. So that's my advice on that. This one, High Standard started making Derringers in like 61 or 62, and they were made in Connecticut. And what they did was they made improvements on this. So the first thing they did was eliminate the two firing pins, and then they made it hammerless, so you didn't have to like pull it, cock it to shoot it. It's all internal. And the ratcheting system is right about here. I could take the grips off, but I got to take the whole housing off. This is all steel, but it has an aluminum frame. And if you take the grips off, you still can't see anything. You have to take this housing off. I did a video on this, but my channel got deleted. It really helped a lot of people because I took it totally apart, showed them how to clean it, and put it back together. These guys made it. This thing is totally reliable. This one's a 22 Magnum, and you have 22 Magnum. So this is the M101, made in the 60s, basically. I think they went up to the 70s. I'm not sure. So I can't really just take the grips off and show you. I got to take all this. Maybe I'll post a picture from an old video that got deleted and saved somewhere else. Rambling. Anyway, the improvements they made with the High Standard here was they made it easier. On most traditional Derringers, you got to flip a lever and flip the barrel all the way around just to load it and unload it. What they did was a top brake action, okay, with a built-in ejector, so you can pull the rounds out and then close it, load it, close it. So that's awesome. You don't have to go through hoops and spin everything around, okay, and then you can flip up. All right. Now the other thing they did, let me close this. Instead of two firing pins, all right, you just see one slit where I'm going to call it the striker. And right here, instead of two firing pins, you have your notch right here. And what this does, instead of going from one up here to down here, they had the ingenious design of just having the striker do this and this each time from barrel to barrel. So they don't have to go up and down. So the ratcheting system, it's right about here. It has 4 notches in it, so it can completely cycle, but it only needs 2 to strike up and strike down, all with the one striker that hardly moves. And that simplified everything. Now, you were concerned about the dents in the breech face. That is there to save the firing pin, and it uses the brass to soften the blow. In this case, it's one slit in the middle, and it'll hit the bottom here and the top here. Okay, so this just does that and that. Way more simplified. And then along with the top brake and not having to cock the hammer makes it easier if this was a carry gun. Now, it doesn't have a covered hammer, or it doesn't, the trigger isn't, it doesn't have a trigger guard here. The reason they did this was designed to fire with the middle finger. And the reason is you use your pointer finger as long as you don't have super long fingers to point. Okay? It's got good sights on it, but this was designed to pull out of your pocket and point your finger at something and fire it. Okay? So it was designed to shoot with the middle finger. And that's how they designed that. The problem with this whole thing, being that it has no hammer, it's got a very heavy trigger. Super heavy. Maybe I can show you here. Okay. So this striker's going to come up, come down, and hit each barrel, and it makes it more reliable. There's less issues. Okay. So it's got a very heavy pull at first, but the brake is decent. Okay, see how long that is? And it's a belly gun. Okay, once you get to there, you're all right. Okay, so that's how that was designed. Middle finger. It's like, yes. Anyway, I thought I'd share this with you if people don't know about these. I had a full video on it, but I got deleted, my channel. Neat little gun. I'm not really a Derringer guy because for the weight and size, you can have a 380. And then you got issues, but this one's totally reliable because they simplified everything. It's got a little spring here. It's got your main spring. It's got the ratchet. Everything is one piece on the barrel as far as the ejector and everything. I'm not doing this right. You flick it all the way up, and then you can reload pretty fast. All right. So I bought it because a friend of mine didn't want it. He thought the trigger was too heavy. And I bought it for my son because he loves old tools. And this looks like the 20s retro, Empire State Building type designs. It's just cool. All right. So I thought I'd share that with you. That's why I got this one. And he wanted $50. And I'm like, all right, for this, I'll buy it for my son for $50. And it's a 22 Magnum. So it's good for snake shot, or if you wanted to carry it. 22 Magnum's pretty devastating. All right, now let's go to this. This is a Novelty. Oh my gosh. This one has light strikes. That one's reliable. This one does have light strikes. It's a single shot. There's no camming or anything, but yet it has light strikes. Now this is a Colt in 22 short. I'm going to ream it out to 22. So, easy ammo. Now, Colt made these. They sold them as dueling pistols in a wooden box. Excuse the hiccups. In a wooden box, and it's all Novelty gizmo, typical Colt So it says Colt on here. I forget who made them for them. It was Taiwan or something. I don't know. So the neat thing about this is you can half cock it, and you just pivot the barrel and load it and unload it. And it has a little ejector here so you can pluck it out. Okay. So this is super tiny. Now the funny story on this is someone actually carried this as a carry gun, a 22 single shot short. And he was a store owner, and he sold it to me for $25. I thought it'd be a neat, fun project to ream out to 22, and I still need to do that. But this one gets light strikes, even though it all relies on the hammer. Okay? And you can half cock it, pivot, load, unload, and then fully cock it and shoot it. It's got a nice trigger. However, it's just a gimmick gun made by Colt. And it's pot metal barrel. I don't know what the barrel's made out of, like zinc. It's sleeved. It's bad. So what I have to do here is I made sure there was no headspace problem, like the hammer hitting the barrel forward. That's pretty tight. So it's got to be the mainspring. Otherwise, I'm going to have to notch out to get more firing power on the firing pin. So the little Derringers, no matter what, they're going to have issues. This one I got to fix. This one's good. It fires all the time, unless there's like bad ammo or something. But 22 short, I'll take the 22 Magnum. But I thought I'd share this with you. If you come across these, they're little gimmick Colt dueling pistol, whatever. So there's that. We'll do a video on this once I fix it and get it to fire reliably. I'll shoot like 3 rounds, then get a light strike. You know, and it shouldn't be that way, being like this. You know, there's nothing to it. I do like the pivot barrel. I do like that. That's easy. All right, I hope you found this interesting. I was just kind of inspired. I saw Jesse's video this morning and replied. Be careful of your sonic cleaners. And Jesse, if you still have problems, check that gearing. Okay, and you can do that without removing the firing pins. Firing pins, I believe, on a traditional, I don't have one. I think it's just the firing pin and maybe a little tiny return spring that's in there. As long as they're moving freely and you blast them out, you really don't need to make a special screwdriver. But if you want to do it, I would probably do it anyway. Do it, check for burrs, check for everything. Until next time, thanks for watching.